Sometimes doing exactly what you're told can be the most satisfying kind of revenge. Today, we've got a few stories from the Malicious Compliance subreddit, where people followed the rules to the letter and watched as things unraveled for the ones who tried to control them. From petty workplace payback to full-blown business sabotage, these stories are a reminder. Be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. Let's get into it. Landlord tries to sell our stuff to competitors. We follow his eviction notice to the letter. This happened a few years ago during the height of the pandemic lockdowns. I worked for a leisure company. Think soft play, indoor soccer, laser tag. Can't be too specific. Before lockdown, management was negotiating a lease renewal for one of our parks. Everything was going fine, except the landlords were hard to reach. Then 2020 hit the fan. All our sites closed. Total chaos. Lease negotiations got bumped way down the list. We didn't think the landlord would push eviction during a global lockdown, especially while still receiving rent. But we were wrong. A few days later, we got a letter. We had 7 days to vacate the premises and take everything with us. Anything left behind would become the landlord's property. That line? Very important. Our parks weren't simple setups. Tons of construction went into installing our gear, which made removing it even harder. Add lockdown, with no staff and everything shut. Saving our assets seemed nearly impossible. Losing a profitable site was bad enough, but then it got worse. A few days into the eviction, we found out the landlord had been advertising our park to our competitors. And he wasn't just offering the building, he was offering it fully equipped. Our stuff, ready to go, just needs rebranding. Yeah, he thought we couldn't clear the place out in time. He thought wrong. We were furious, and we decided to comply, maliciously. We had 7 days to move everything we owned, so that's exactly what we did. Local businesses stepped up, offering free storage. A few staff came back from lockdown, and we spent the next week removing, selling, or destroying everything tied to our brand. We didn't even leave light fittings. Normally, we left behind thousands of dollars worth of disco lights, bars, and kitchen fixtures, too bulky to move. Not this time. We ripped up the flooring, tore down non-structural walls, dismantled the manager's offices, removed artwork, lockers. Anything we put in, we took out. Every deal the landlord was cooking with competitors, dead in the water. Now he was stuck with an empty shell, a giant renovation bill, and at least 4 more weeks of zero rent. We were still paying up until the eviction. Silver lining. We sold everything we recovered. Fridges, TVs, food, equipment, furniture, gone. That income helped keep the business afloat and paid our staff during lockdown. Update. After everything was cleared out, we handed over the keys. Quickest handover ever. The landlord said nothing, absolutely nothing, about the missing equipment. We did hit a snag getting our deposits back, but he had no case. We'd kept the building in excellent condition and cleaned up almost all the debris from our demolition work. A little pressure from our legal team, and we got every penny owed. The building stayed vacant for a long time. We never heard of any buyers moving in. And our company? It survived. Staff stayed employed, and we weathered the storm despite all the closures. Thanks again to everyone who followed along back then. Your support really meant a lot. That last story was a masterclass in standing your ground. Sometimes the only way to win is to walk away with everything, literally. But not every act of malicious compliance ends the way people expect. In this next story, someone tries to weaponize the rules, only to have it backfire completely. Let's take a look. AITA reversed a malicious compliance. This happened a few years ago when I was working a summer job at an office front desk during college. A video I saw recently reminded me of this moment. One day, this lady came in to pay a fine. She was furious, rude, and clearly angry about the whole thing. I didn't know the details. I was just the front desk person. Her fine was about $250, and she decided she'd get some petty revenge. She said she was going to pay entirely in quarters. Now, technically, we had to accept any legal tender, so I took the bags from her and quickly realized that she'd unrolled every single roll of quarters. She sneered and said, "Since you all want to waste my time with a stupid fine, I'll waste yours." I tried to explain, even begged her not to do this to me. I had nothing to do with her fine. It didn't matter. "We're all evil," she said, then added, "One band, one sound." Yeah, there was no reasoning with her. I was furious, but I started counting, one by one. We kept getting interrupted, phones ringing, other customers showing up, and I had to restart a few times. She began to realize how long this was really going to take. She tried to help by stacking the quarters. I told her I couldn't take her word for it. I had to count everyone by hand, just like she insisted. 2 other people came in, paid, and left while she was still standing there. Now she was getting mad, said I was wasting her time on purpose. I told her, "We don't have a coin counter. This is how long it takes." She threatened to call the police. I said, "Go ahead. I'll just have to restart from the top when they get here. Gotta make sure the count's accurate." One more customer came and went before she finally snapped, pulled out her credit card and paid. But as she was storming out, she grabbed one of the coin bags off the counter. The handle gave way. Quarters everywhere. She tried to scoop up what she could, but left a bunch behind. As she walked out, I said, "You're littering." She flipped me off. I got a broom and swept up what was left, about 192 quarters. Found even more in the parking lot on my way out. Not a huge amount of money, but for a broke college student, felt like justice. That last story was a great reminder that sometimes a little patience and a calm attitude are the best way to let someone's plan fall apart on its own. But malicious compliance doesn't always come from customers or coworkers. In this next story, it's a landlord who oversteps and a tenant who follows the judge's orders a little too well. Here's how that went down. All modifications must be restored to the original. My family and I moved into a house in 2008. 5 bedrooms, 3,200 square feet, $1,600 a month. It was a decent price in 2008, and the rent stayed the same for many years. Since I'm reasonably handy, I would fix things myself rather than bother an old man. I lived there so long that I also made quite a few upgrades. In 2024, the owner passed away, and his son inherited the property. A week later, he gave notice of intent to inspect the property. During the inspection, he kept trying to open drawers and look through my belongings, which isn't legally allowed, and was rude when I stopped him. As he left, he handed me a notice that my rent was increasing to $4,000 monthly, about $1,000 over market value. I would have paid higher rent if it had been reasonable, but I wasn't paying that much. My month-to-month lease was worded to require 3 months' notice to raise the rent. I pointed out this fact, then gave him notice that I would be moving out at the end of that 3 months. A few days later, I was served with an eviction notice. The month-to-month lease also required 3 months' notice to evict me without cause, so he tried evicting me with cause. He claimed I had made unauthorized modifications to the house and cited the back door with a dog door installed. I still had the original door in the garage and the previous owner's permission, so it was neither unauthorized nor a modification. Regardless, the judge decided I needed to move out within 30 days, or he would grant the eviction. Additionally, he explicitly ordered that all modifications be restored to the original. This is where the malicious compliance comes in. And I'm sure you already see this coming. All the smart house additions I made were removed. The tool shed in the yard was removed, the pond was filled in, closet organizers were torn out, garage organizers were removed. The updated appliances were replaced with basic models. Every update I made was removed, and then I moved out. He sued me for removing everything. His lawyer cited a law that says any changes to the property become part of the property, and it's illegal to remove them when vacating the property. However, my lawyer pointed out the order from the previous judge, stating, "All modifications must be restored to the original." I provided receipts for all the things I had removed, proving I had added them and was required to remove them. I won the case, and he had to pay my legal fees. A few months later, I got a call from his sister. Some of my mail had not been forwarded, and she wanted to ensure I got it. We had a short conversation about the entire ordeal. She told me the house was actually inherited by 4 siblings. Her brother had lied to everyone. First, he had raised the rent, knowing I would move out. He already had a deal to sell the house to one of those big rental companies. He told his siblings the house had negative equity and nobody would get anything from the sale. In reality, the house was paid off and worth about $700,000. They had made an offer on the house, which included all the stuff I later removed. He couldn't afford to replace everything, so they took him to court over the sale. Since all 4 siblings were listed as owners, all were named in the lawsuit, which is how they learned the truth. In the end, the house sold for $550,000. In exchange for not pressing fraud charges against him, his 3 siblings split the proceeds, and he got nothing. Edit. A lot of people asked the same questions. Rather than respond to them individually, I will post them here. Q. How did everything happen so fast after the landlord died? A. I guess my wording wasn't clear. I don't actually know when he died. I only talked to the guy once or twice a year. This all started about a week after I was notified of his death in February of 2024. I moved out in early June. We went to court over the removals in September, and I spoke with his sister in December. Everything I posted happened over the span of nearly a year. Q. Why did I rent for 17 years instead of buying a house? A. I moved into the house during my divorce in 2008. Buying a house during a divorce is not easy. I chose this house because it was large enough for me and 3 kids and close to their schools. By the time they moved out, I was set in my ways. I planned to buy another place at some point, but was in no rush. Q. How did his siblings not know what he was up to? A. I don't know. Everything involving me was my first-hand experience. Everything that happened after that was second-hand information I got from his sister. I can't confirm what she told me. I can only share what she said. Q. Why did I do so many upgrades in a rental? A. I wasn't tearing out walls or replacing floors. Everything I did was reversible and done to make my life easier. Also, the landlord was retired, never raised the rent, and always gave permission. Even though I was renting, it was my home. Q. Why did the judge only give me 30 days to move out? A. The eviction process didn't happen overnight. I thought this was obvious, but some people seem confused. From the point that I gave him 3 months' notice to seeing a judge, nearly 2 months had passed. There is a timed process that has to be followed. Q. How did I remove everything so quickly? A. None of the stuff was difficult to remove. The pond was not a small lake. It was a small 300-gallon hole in the backyard with a few goldfish and plants. It took us about 3 hours to drain and fill it in. The shed was sold to someone who took it away on a flatbed. Organizers were modular. Appliances are simple to replace. The most time-consuming was replacing all the smart plugs with standard outlets and smart bulbs with regular bulbs. Q. How are we supposed to believe you had all those receipts? A. I've been self-employed for 29 years. I keep every receipt because Uncle Sam doesn't mess around when it comes time for an audit. Most receipts come to my email, but I also have a portable receipt scanner for everything else. Question. How would anyone believe the house had negative equity? A. Again, I can't speak for them, but I can share a personal anecdote. My mother died in 2022. While settling her estate, we discovered that she had a reverse mortgage. Essentially, a company loaned her money with no mortgage payments. In return, they had to be paid back if she died or tried to sell the house. The house wasn't worth enough to pay them off, so we let them take it. Reverse mortgages are prevalent and often predatory. I don't know if he told them this, but it's not far-fetched to believe a house has negative equity. Malicious compliance really is its own kind of art, isn't it? There's something deeply satisfying about following the rules so precisely that it turns the whole situation on its head. From spilled quarters to smart home strip-outs, today's stories showed just how far a little well-placed compliance can go. Have you ever pulled off your own bit of malicious compliance? Or seen a situation where someone should have? I'd love to hear your stories, or even your ideas for how you would have handled these. Drop them in the comments, and as always, thanks for spending some time here. Until next time.